Should I do it?
No.
Aw.
Okay, we are live according to Hangouts. What's
Hello,
up,
Gun
everybody?
Nation.
Good. Hi, everybody.
Oh my God, you're so weird.
I'm feeling better today.
God, he's on medication. Everybody, pardon him. All right, we'll give it a few moments for people to saunter in, and then we will get started.
Feeling better today.
Turn your sound off, suckers.
I did.
Mine's off.
All right.
Do it right. I consider myself a dude, not a dudette. Just want
Whatever. Take what you can get. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, if that's how you live, man. Sorry.
All right, people are coming in. So we've got all sorts of people in here. I'm not going to go through the roster. You guys know who you are, but be sure to say hi to everybody, of course. Welcome to another Wednesday chat. We've got to give a special thanks to Big Johnson for going solo last week. Well, 1776 and I were out doing other things, other obligations. So we appreciate that. We know that was a lot of fun and something very different. We don't do that very often, but it's kind of nice to be able to go and do other things and come back. So we appreciate that.
Was not a problem at all. I enjoyed doing it. You've done it before too, so.
It's true. It's true. It's all you do is read comments. That's pretty much it. You're not really talking to anybody, so it's a different experience for sure.
Yeah.
Tonight's kind of ad lib a little bit. I don't think we have anything too specific on the menu to talk about. We might have a couple of things, but otherwise, we're just going to be hanging out talking with you guys. We've already got a couple of questions out there, and we will get to that. I know Range Randy had a question, so we'll get to that here in just a moment. But guys, what's on your mind?
Us?
Yeah, you too. Who else?
Oh, Lord.
Just glad to be on and want to talk about some guns, talk about, stuff that we saw, that we've seen, all these videos coming out. I know that we're going to have a lot of questions on stuff that people are interested in. So we will definitely get to those.
All right. Yeah. 17?
I would love to talk about the kind of the debacle of Terran Tactical's oopsie, even though they were not responsible necessarily for it. There's a lot of comments being made. A lot of people went right after them. And for those of you who aren't aware, the little model, whatever her name was, came out and said, all these kind of, they weren't like super negative. All gun owners should be, put in prison, but they were fairly negative against the ownership of firearms, Second Amendment rights, that type of stuff. So, of course, Terran Tactical got called out for that, and they went ahead and said, well, we don't condone what she said, and she wasn't speaking for us, which, obviously she wasn't. But I think it actually brings up a really good discussion, especially for this quote-unquote gun community, when we start to see manufacturers who are literally, in my opinion, exploiting women. And I'm not saying I don't like looking at, scantily clad women, because I'm not gonna lie, I do. But at the same time, I mean, if we're trying to put a positive, image out there for the gun community, this is probably not the best way to do it. And I mean, there's plenty of female gun owners out there. There's plenty of female shooters out there who can probably represent these companies much better than somebody who doesn't even really stand or support what many of us do. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah,
For sure.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Vetting out your staff members is probably a pretty good idea before you just throw them in public and all that.
At least ask them if they like guns and what their thoughts are.
Yeah, they make me afraid. I'm scared of guns.
Yeah.
I'll sit here and hold one, but I don't want to shoot it.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say the application process should probably be a little bit more robust.
Speaking of application process, I wanted to share this with you two guys as well. I back on December 14th of 2017, I sent in, or actually I drove up to the sheriff's office and handed in a form for a P01. Now that was back in December 14th. It is now January 31st, and I still do not have my little permission slip from the county to go and pick that gun up. So it's been you figure 6 weeks now. There's been absolutely no way of knowing where it's at. I actually called the sheriff's office, and thankfully the lady that works there is so nice. And she's been trying to hunt down who has it so that I can call him up and kind of give him hell again. But it was kind of funny because before I came on here tonight, I was reading this article about how Andrew Cuomo, his son, Andrew Cuomo passed legislation or got something going on with prisons in New York State, where now all prisoners will have free tablets.
Wow.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
So, you know, they give out that stuff for free. And yet here I am, never committed a damn crime in my life. And I got a gun for my birthday, and I might have my next birthday before I pick it up. So, I mean, it's kind of interesting. So I thought that was just something interesting and kind of pissing me off a little bit. But
just go to prison, you can get a free tablet.
I know. Free tablets. That's great.
Yeah.
So excited. So good for those.
A pretty good deal. Pretty good deal.
Yes, Pops. We have 3 guys.
And yeah, I'd like to get out, but unfortunately, I am embedded in New York for at least another 15 years. Oh God, that almost hurts to say.
Yeah,
that.
I can imagine that.
So,
well, another year you'll have to send KS and I the rest of your guns, so it doesn't really matter.
No.
But hey, have y'all heard? And I know this has been brought up in the chat, but I've already got the stats on it too. Have y'all heard about the new or the Army, you know, using the new SIG and stuff, and some of the issues they've had with it?
I've not heard about any issues. No, I haven't.
Actually, yeah, they reported testing on it, and there's a whole article on it. I've got it, but it's pretty crazy. They've had some issues with it, you know, with failure to feeds and things like that. Now, you know, I know that SIG's all over the top of it, but it's pretty interesting what they're talking about, because they've actually got full-blown stats out of like failure rates, and you know, it can only be like 99%, and some of the other things are a little less, and some of them are more. I mean, it's kind of all across the board. So I don't know what they're going to finally work out with it, but it's very, very interesting. You know what they have. So
now you would think we would be at a place where, aside from the drop issue, that I consider a totally separate issue from extraction, whatever. You'd think by now the P320 as a platform would be pretty solid. I mean, I think back to all of the review videos on the P320. There were definitely some that talked about some issues for sure, but by and large, they were glowing. And I know the P320s that I've had here on the channel, however many there have been, you know, I've never had a single issue with any one of them. Even the RX, when it came back from SIG, I didn't actually have any real issues. It just came back a little bit different than I expected. So it's surprising that they're running into that many issues.
Yeah, it was actually quite a bit. They're you know, and Razor's saying that SIG isn't on top of it. They're wanting to change like magazines and triggers and a lot of stuff, you know, with what they're saying there, I guess, where he is anyway. But it's pretty amazing what some of the failures were. You know, they were even rating the gun like, if it was in battle so long, would they suspect it to work? And some of them were no. So I'm just like, that's not good.
Let me just ask, like, the folks out there right now who have been in the military and who have done their time, you know, if you've seen combat, I mean, I've never been in the military, so I can't tell you, but if you've seen combat, you know, how many times have you had to draw your pistol in combat? I mean, is it something that is, you know, as necessary as a rifle? You know, I don't know. I'd just be curious to know.
Yeah.
Because if you're really predominant with the rifle, I'd rather have a really reliable rifle. Although, you know, if that fails, you'd want to have a sidearm, obviously, but, you know.
Exactly. And they're putting them through, you know, the rigorous testing that they're supposed to for a pistol, but, you know, I don't know. You know, and, you know, Poe brings up a point. Could that be, you know, an article from a while ago? Could that be a current one? You know, it doesn't have a date on it, so I really don't know.
Right.
But it was released, so.
I think it was in a magazine called Glock.
Yeah, right. I feel like the P320 is a reasonably proven handgun at this point. Obviously, not to the extent that something like, yes, a Glock, whatever. But I would be surprised that they would be having that many issues with this iteration of what is a gun that's been around for several years with mostly success.
Well, and I think for the civilian, for the average civilian carrying it, I mean, had any problems with, with mine, but then again, I'm not putting it through 9 million rounds, or whatever they're having to, classify the pistol as, but I don't know.
And there's a lot of good comments right now from the military guys, if you read them as we go through this, they're making some good points.
Right. Sorry. Coda's also saying that it was a failure rate of the 148 special purpose round. The 115 grain passed and was above the minimum standard, which is interesting.
Yeah.
By the way, thank you to all you guys who have served. Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Yes, we do.
Absolutely. Okay, changing the topic here for just a minute. I don't want this to get too far away. Range Randy asked a question in the very beginning. I posted a couple of pictures on Instagram of my Shadow 2 and some lock grips that are on, and I'm trying to decide which ones I like, and I'll have kind of a little review coming out on that before too long. Then you guys probably won't be, well, maybe you'll be able to see this okay, but yeah, these are one of the sets of grips here, and he could not find them on the Lock Grip website, and they are not listed on the website. However, if you contact Lock Grip, and they've got contact information on the website, you can definitely get a hold of them. So just tell them what you want, what the gun is, and they will definitely take care of you for that.
Yeah, it's called a custom inlay, is what he'll do for you, is a CZ custom inlay. So what are y'all thinking about the 365 that you've seen so far? I know we've seen Poe's videos, we've seen some from Harry's. What is y'all's opinion on it that you're seeing so far?
It's nice. Last time we had this discussion, I apparently became the hated person in our chat. So
how's that different from any other time?
Yeah, I know. I love it. It's the best gun ever, guys. No, I don't, if you like it, great, buy it. I don't care. I mean, for me, I'm not buying it. I'm not interested in it. I'm just not, I've been looking, and, for me, for the summer carry, I'm probably going to wind up getting a Shield again, Shield 2.0, but I for whatever reason, I want to get a damn Crimson Trace on it. I don't know why. I just want it. Yeah. So, and they're cheaper. It's cheaper.
Yeah.
So, but good luck to everybody who got it. I hope it works out. I hope you guys love it. I really do.
What do you think, KS?
Pistol Pete was saying he's holding out for the SIG 69365. I appreciate that. We all are, for sure. First, I want to get on record that I hate Poe and Harry a lot right now for having it, because I've got one on order. The way I understand it, SIG released 1,000 right after SHOT Show, or just right around SHOT Show. I think that's probably how Poe got his. And the majority of them hit the East Coast, and so they will eventually migrate their way down the Midwest and the West Coast. But it's going to take some time. I mean, we could be looking at mid-February, whatever the case may be. It could be longer than that. But I can't wait. I mean, I'm excited. I've been really enjoying the P320 line with all the X series lately, and I'm a pretty big fan of Sig Sauer anyways. I think they make good guns, generally speaking. And then 365 just looks intriguing because I like the Shield and the PPS M2 and even the Glock 43 and that sort of thing. So it's kind of right up my alley a little bit. I'm excited for it. I really am.
Did any of you guys see anything about H&K coming out with a single stack subcompact? Because I saw that, and I don't know if it was true, but I did see it, which would be kind of interesting to see what it comes out as. If they do it, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, heard a rumor about it last night, but that was the first I'd heard. I would be very intrigued if HK came out with something like that. I like HKs a lot, so I don't know.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah, Poe said he saw the same thing. I mean, it'd be interesting. I think that obviously that's probably where there's going to be still a large draw in the market, because I mean, let's be honest. Right now, the market is just absolutely drowning in polymer striker fired pistols. I mean, there's so many options, and every month it seems like you're getting 2 or 3 more added to the group. For me, like right now, I mean, I don't have a lot of interest in much of anything right now. I just think I have what I like right now, and I'm very, very happy with everything I own. But the one gun that has kind of intrigued me quite a bit is that Caracol. I don't know why. There's something about that gun. You know, I'm kind of getting the same feeling that I had when I first started looking at the Steyrs, and I have never looked back after that. But I'd be curious to see when that gun comes out. So I emailed them, and they were saying that they're going to be released here. They're actually, I guess, shipping them, but the first that you'll see will be in March. So that should be pretty interesting.
Yeah, and you know, if that gun, you know, proves to have a decent trigger and things like that, I mean, it could be a really nice gun.
I know that you know, Caracol USA has the gun, so they changed the gun a little bit from the UAE. So you know, supposedly they made it excuse me, more US friendly.
Okay. Yeah, as soon as it comes, you know, I don't know about, and I mean, I'm sure the quick sights are going to be nice. I just don't know if I would want that version where I couldn't replace the sights. I think that I would want to be able to put some different sights in it if I choose to, or chose to.
Yeah. Hey, I'm going to backtrack this here just a second. The arms men out in the crowd tonight made a really good point actually about the 365, and this is applicable really to anything. He says here, she says it's a game changer because it's the size of maybe a Glock 42 thereabouts, with anywhere really it's from 10 to 12 rounds plus one in the pipe, which is fantastic. And the point really there is, it's interesting to see how competitors will respond to this in the years to come. And I think that's a great point. And again, I think this applies to really anything in the firearms industry. Anytime a manufacturer is stepping outside of the box or stretching that box at least a little bit, it forces others to also hopefully innovate. We know a couple of manufacturers who aren't really big into innovation quite so much, but the majority of them try to really expand a little bit. I mean, we talked about the PP2 or PPSM2 with the shield red dot on it, which looks pretty intriguing. I know 1776. You had mentioned that a couple of times.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool. I mean, that's something that's different. It's honestly, it's pretty nice. I you know, I don't know if it justifies the price. You know, I know the price is a little bit higher, obviously, because of the sight. But you know, I mean, it comes with 3 mags. You know, and whoever's ever had a PPSM2 knows it's a good gun. So that would be kind of cool to see that. So I've been actually going back and forth between that and the actual shield. But I think I'm just going to go with the shield. I don't want to spend a ton of money just to get a gun that I'm going to carry probably even, you know, not that much in the summer either. I mean, it's just about, you know, how you dress. So for me, I'm probably going to get one, but I don't think it's going to be that 365.
Yeah, and to the 365, you know, my opinion on it is if I can fit my mitts on it and, you know, with my thumb, as long as it's not near the barrel, I mean, I think as long as it's proven, it could be a really nice gun. But then again, I look at, you know, the shield that I have. Now I've got a great trigger in it, just like I like it, really light and feels really nice. And I've got the +2 in it. So it's 10+1 now, you know, and is 2 to 3 rounds that big of a deal? Because if that's the case for me, I will carry a larger gun, you know, a much larger gun where I have tons of capacity, you know, like 22 or whatever. But I think in a situation where if you're trying to dress, you know, dress like where you've really got to dress more proper or whatever you want to say, you know, that could be a really great gun or even a great backup gun.
Right.
But I don't know, you know, for me, if it's going to be that big of a game changer, I would really want to also be able to shoot it compared to, you know, my shield and see the difference. And Music has a question. You know, she said on the smaller guns, you know, a lot of people say smaller guns are snappier, and some are. But, you know, also if you can get even a better grip on a smaller gun to really lock it in your hands, and it has a great recoil spring where it absorbs a lot of that recoil, you can have a small gun shoot just like a large gun sometimes. That's you know, right. And from what Poe is saying and what Harry is saying, you know, the recoil is very manageable on the 365. You know, even with
I also think an advantage of the gun too is the way they design the shape of the gun. You know, if you look at the back of it, you're able to get really pretty. And again, I haven't touched it. I'm only watching videos on it, but it seems like you can get pretty high up underneath the gun. You know, there's always that talk about the bore axis. But honestly, even if you had a high bore axis, I think where it really plays a role is how deep for underneath this. If I can get in the camera, I think it depends on how deep you can get underneath this gun.
Yeah.
So you could have a higher bore axis, but if you get a nice undercut here and you actually get that hand further underneath, this axis here, I mean, I think that's
Yeah.
where it makes the big improvement. And I think that's probably, what they look like or how they cut it. Again, I don't know. I'm just taking a guess, but it seems that that's what they did.
Well, you as a shooter, you want to be able to drive the gun, not have the gun drive you or flip and stuff like that.
Right.
I mean, you want to be able to press out and, hold shots on target quickly if need be.
Yeah,
Well,
and
part of that is also fundamentals. I mean, it's
Sure.
grip, fundamentals, and making sure you've got the right stance, grip, posture, all of those types of things, because your body absorbs some of that recoil as well. And so if you're able to control it from a grip standpoint with those ergonomics, I mean, better ergonomics are going to help as well. All of those things feed into being able to basically control and enjoy just about any firearm out there.
Exactly. I've seen people shoot really light recoiling guns, but if they use like a teacup method, where they're putting their hand under it, that's basically like holding a gun with one hand and just, letting the gun flip. And they're like, oh, it's so flippy. And I'm like, well, that's an old school grip. A lot of people used to do it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But, if you really get those paws on there and lock that gun down, they won't move.
I think what's also interesting about the design is again, that undercut. I think as guns begin to evolve more, you're going to start to see that shape of gun come out more, as opposed to a blocky type of, creation, and if you look at it, it just seems like where the tang of everything is, it just seems like they're making these really deep cuts in there, which allows the gun owner to actually be able to get that hand further underneath. And I think that's what allows really good control and really ultimately less recoil. I mean, and you would hope that a lot of manufacturers would start looking at that. I mean, if you look at some of the guns that shoot incredibly soft, even for 9mm, whatever, you want to make the debate, you can. But I mean, you look at the P10, there's like really no recoil in that gun. The Steyr I'm telling you, it has like no recoil. I mean, it's ridiculous. And I still think for whatever reason, the way they made that undercut so deep underneath, not only the frame, but the slide, I just think that is ultimately where we're going to hopefully see the market go to. Because I just think it makes a huge difference.
Well, you're right on the Steyr. I mean, it's a very low recoil gun, but you can get your hand so far up under that thing. It's crazy. Hey, question. Frank Hellman's asking, so the new PPQ SC or the 365, if you had to choose one?
One's a single stack, one's a double. Well, it's not even a single stack, really. It's like a double staggered single or something.
A hybrid.
which I think is the game changer right there, especially for other manufacturers. But if I was going to choose, I mean, honestly, I love Walther, man. I love the PPQ, but I just am not in love with that subcompact. I'm just not. And it's not just aesthetics. It's not just the grip. It's the way they built it. They have that stupid roll pin that holds this whole spring assembly. And that's the way they built the Creed. And the Creed isn't a bad gun. It's a great gun. It shoots well. It's a nice gun, nice trigger, but they built it on a cheap platform. And that's why it was so affordable. And for them, in my opinion, to go and do the same thing on a PPQ, to me, that's ridiculous. You're going to charge us a premium because it says PPQ, but you're building it like a Creed. That doesn't make too much sense. So just from that alone, I would get a 365.
Yeah. Well, I would get the 365 because the PPQ SC, I mean, hell, you can put the bigger mag in it. It's a regular PPQ. I mean, and plus, I just don't think I can get my fingers on that SC very well. And I don't know about the 365 yet. I'm sure I probably could, but I just don't see any reason to have the PPQ SC since I already have the PPQ now.
Right. I would just get a Steyr S9.
There you go.
Yeah, right. For me, I mean, I would take the 365. I'm a fan of SIG. I'm a fan of the concept of this gun. Fingers crossed that it'll go well. Harry's saying you got to trust it, and I would say that's the same for any gun. No doubt about it. Well said. The PPQ, I want to see it. I mean, I don't want to pass judgment yet because the pictures make it look like there's hardly. It's almost comical how little grip there is, but surely that's not the case. I mean, it's got to be pretty close to the VP9 SK, I would imagine, because generally speaking, those manufacturers tend to play off each other quite a bit. I mean, they're related, so I would imagine it's pretty close. But really, I wasn't that big of a fan of the PPQ M2. I thought it was a decent gun, but it did not light my fire. So I imagine the subcompact's probably not going to do much better for me.
I mean, honestly, if you want to get a feel for it and you can't find one, go try to find a P99 compact. It's the same. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Same exact. As far as I know, it's the same size, the same everything. You know, obviously you have the better trigger in the PPQ, or at least the single action better trigger in PPQ. But I don't. It does nothing for me, and it's unfortunate. I was hoping they would have gone somewhere more in the realm of taking the CCP, redesigning it, making it like a baby PPQ. I think to me that would have been an absolute amazing firearm. But the subcompact to me is just, and it's not even necessarily size. Like I said, I think it's just the way they built it. I'm not saying it's a bad build, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. Hell, they have engineers who make a lot more money than I do, who know what they're talking about. But I just know that for me to have a roll pin in there that holds things together, I'm just, you know, I don't know, it doesn't do much for me.
Yeah, so Poe just said, the longer I own the PPQ, the worse I shot it. It's funny that you say that, Poe. I've thought the same thing. The more I shot it, the more I put it against, you know, other guns, and if I could only have ones or whatever, or just went to the range and shot it, the worse it got. I think part of it might be if you find other guns that tend to fit you just a little bit better, or you shoot better, whatever. For me, it was like the P10C or the 2.0 compact, things like that. They were a better shooting experience. So to me, the PPQ in my hands, and I know a lot of people feel differently about this, but in my hands, it's just the PPQ never was that great. It just wasn't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I own the PPQ and the VP9, and I like the PPQ trigger, but I like the VP9 trigger too. And, you know, out of those two guns, really like the PPQ because I got it first and it shoots fine. But the more and more I shoot the VP9, I really like the VP9 better as far as, you know, being able to set up the side panels, because they don't make an extra large backstrap for the PPQ. I wish they did. They only make a large, but it just, it's very ergonomic. You can't argue about that, you know, the PPQ, but the VP9 just molds better to my hands, and it actually shoots flatter. You know, the PPQ is a little, not that it's a 9mm, but, you know, I can compare it to a lot of pistols because I have them. And, you know, even prior to 1776, I told him, man, it seems kind of flippy. And he's like, you're crazy. You know, it doesn't flip, or it doesn't have the muzzle rise. And I was like, well, it does compared to other guns. And I think he realized it after he shot a bunch of more other guns. You know,
well, I started realizing when I shot a damn Steyr. I was like,
yeah,
Jesus.
Yeah, it's, I mean, but it's a great shooting pistol. It's very accurate. And, you know, I can keep all of the bullets on target, but it does flip a little more so than others. Yeah.
And if you want, you can always get an Apex trigger and put it on there.
Yep.
And then it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, you know, Compton Terry just made a good point. The PPQ is a damn good gun, and I would agree. I mean, the trigger is one of the better triggers on the market. I don't think many people would ever debate that. I mean, the ergonomics are almost second to none. I mean, they are pretty fantastic, and I think it really comes down to personal preference and that sort of thing. So it sounds like, you know, you fall on that side where the PPQ fits you well and you shoot it well, and that's awesome. There are a lot of guys out there for sure. So it's fantastic that we have so many great choices out there, and we can dial in on the ones that seem to respond to us, or we respond to it the best. But that's awesome. I mean, a lot of people feel the exact same way as you, man.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that's something that we really should kind of, I guess, emphasize when we talk about this stuff, is that, you know, a lot of times when we talk about guns, we're talking about things that we see that maybe are good, maybe are bad. It doesn't mean we're saying the gun is bad. You know, I mean, is there really a bad gun? Now, I'm sure people say High Point, you know, or something like that. Maybe. I mean, I've never owned one. I don't want to own one. And I don't want anybody giving me one. But at the same time, we're not saying that these guns are bad. We're not saying that, you know, Glocks are bad because they're ergonomically crap. We're not saying that the PPQ is crap because it's maybe a little bit flippy. Nobody's saying that. And a lot of people get so angry over somebody saying something about a brand of gun that they, I don't know, have like an incestual relationship with them. And that's not what the case is, man. We love guns, period.
Yeah.
You know, we're just sharing opinions about them.
We all catch flack. You know, I joke around about Glocks, and trust me, it's a complete joke. Glocks work. They work. They've been proven. I just like to joke around about them because I'm just not a Glock guy. But I know plenty of people, and they've been through battle. They work. They're just not for me.
And then,
but
you know,
yes.
Compton Terry said that the PPQ has needed an update, and you know what? It does. I think it does need a little bit of an update. I think it's getting a little bit long in the tooth with the way it's been designed. But even with that, I mean, ergonomically, this gun is still fantastic. I mean, I actually like the ergos better on this than the VP9. You know, I've told KS a dozen times that there's just something about the VP9 as you know, as whatever you want to say, modifiable or customizable that the grip is on the VP9. I just can't seem to like just get the right match. I mean, it feels good, but it just doesn't feel perfect, you know? And I just, every time I grab the damn PPQ, I'm like, man, it just feels so good. But I think if they kind of maybe made that undercut a little bit deeper, maybe lessen the height of the slide, I mean, God, they'd still rock, because the trigger's great. The ergos are great. You know, this, every PPQ I've owned none of them have ever had one failure. Not one. It's just amazing.
Yeah. And, you know, if I have to pick something out on the VP9, if I have to, I would say probably the little trench that the trigger rides in. And I know you can polish that, you know, to make it smoother. And I don't go into there I don't really go into there at all, but it just kind of bugs me that it's there. You know, and I know that they didn't put it on the SK. I wish they would just take that completely out. And I know why they have it. They have it, you know, in case a police officer has gloves on, they don't want to get the gloves trapped under the trigger, but it's just, I don't know. I think it's kind of not needed personally.
I love the VP9. Chris Hunter makes a really good point. He says things have changed since he learned to shoot in the 80s. There weren't as many choices in those days. In some ways, the consumers become a little bit spoiled. And that is both very true and probably a good thing as well. Now it makes it easier for us to sit here and talk about a lot of different guns and different options and all the intricacies of each one of the guns and that sort of thing. But it's fantastic that we have all these different choices, whether mainstream or some of these boutique firearms or smaller manufacturer firearms. I mean, it's kind of fun, but you're exactly right. When I first started shooting, and it wasn't, I mean, it was kind of in the 80s, but really more in the 90s. I mean, I had a steel frame Smith & Wesson. I think it was a 915, I think it was, and it was a little 9mm. And that was one of the few options I had, at least with my budget at the time. And that thing was a tank, man. It was awesome, but it was whatever, you know, 37 ounces, 36 ounces, something like that. And it was a hammer fired, a single action firearm. You know, there weren't many options out there.
Yeah.
Hey, does anybody have a P320 frame in FDE for the, you know, the newer slide release? Because if you do, PM me. I want one. I'm just throwing it out there, because I got this, but I want to get an FDE frame, and apparently they are, you know, invisible. So
you want the medium, right?
Yeah.
They are out of stock, I think, on Earth, actually.
Yeah.
Yep. And you know, just to say, I know we were kind of bad. Some people were bashing the 320. God, my throat, man. I just got this not too long ago. And I got to say, man, I love this thing. I absolutely love it. I said I'd never get another damn 320, and sure enough, I did. It's called having a problem. But I definitely like this with the Romeo sight on it. It's just, it's really just a good setup. I mean, even the co-witnessing, everything is it's just a really damn good setup.
Yeah, Pop says just get some spray paint.
Yeah, I actually did that one time before on another frame I had, and it just completely came off within like 5 days. So,
well, I had mine Cerakoted, and it's lasted forever.
Yeah, but that's Cerakote. I was using like
pop it off, and you know, because the module comes out, you just have it stippled and Cerakoted.
Well, Fu Master Chew, if you want to send it to me, let me know. I'll use it. I don't care. I don't care if it's new or old style. If you don't want it, I'll take it.
Yeah, you can change out the safeties if you have to.
So NC Civil War is asking a question. He says, okay, guys, so just where are we with the next steps on Second Amendment rights now? No bump stocks, confiscation, etc. Kind of an open-ended question a little bit, but an interesting one just the same. So what do you guys think? I mean, you know, bump stocks have still been a topic of conversation over the last several weeks, especially, but any news on any of those fronts that you guys know about?
No, I mean, I think that if they get, you know, the bump stocks and they get all this other stuff, I mean, one thing leads to another, you know, leads to magazines, etc. You know, I think that they shouldn't take anything. you know, I mean, they've been around forever, and all of a sudden, since Vegas, then all of a sudden they're bad. And if y'all know anything about them, I mean, are they going to outlaw my belt loop or my finger or a stick? Because you can do the same damn thing that you can with a bump stock with those items.
Mhm.
You know, you can just put your finger in the belt loop and run an AR from the hip, and you can do the same damn thing. So it's just like they're grabbing that and then running with other stuff. And, you know, I think it's ridiculous. I think that's going to lead down a rabbit hole that we don't want to go.
17.
You know, I think, you know, it's like anything else, man. It's smoke and mirrors. It's like, hey, let's put the attention over here when the damn problem is over here. You know, the problem that we see with guns has nothing to do with the damn guns. It has something to do with the people. You know, if you want to really go to the source of what is causing this, go to the source of mental health. I mean, bottom line, that's it. I've said it a million times. You know, there is such a problem in this country right now with mental health issues. And I'm not saying people are crazy or that they deserve to be treated like scum because they have mental health issues. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that there is an absolute problem in the country right now. I don't know what's causing it. I don't know what's creating it. I'm just saying that I see it every day on a daily basis. And I'm telling you, and again, not many of you know in my line of work, I don't share that information. There are some of you who do, but I'm telling you, I'm seeing it every friggin' day. And it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter how rich or poor you are. It doesn't matter what color skin you are. Bottom line is you're having an epidemic of mental health problems in the nation that are overwhelming, and nobody wants to address it. It's kind of like, you know, the elephant in the room that everybody sees. They know it's there, but they don't want to talk about it because it might embarrass someone, or it might actually focus the discussion on what's really the problem. You know, you can't tell me that guns are the problem. There are more guns in the country than there are people. So if there was truly a problem, there would be people dying every single day in masses because of the chaos it would ensue. But it's not. And why? Because there are less crazy people than there are crazy people. And so as a result, you don't see it as often. But when you do see it, what's the bottom line issue? What's the overarching issue in all of these shootings? They're not rational people. They're not sane people. They're usually heavily medicated with all kinds of psychotropic drugs that are playing chemistry games in their brains. And next thing you know what, they snap. So let's talk about the real problem. Yeah,
you know, and that's, and we have said this before, but you know, there's two kinds in the world. There's crazies because they're on drugs, or there's terrorism. You know, that's basically where the two come down to. You know, average people that are law-abiding and aren't loaded up on a bunch of junk, you know, they're just normal people out there just trying to protect themselves and families. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you start pumping people full of drugs. I mean, I actually have a friend of mine, and the guy's on like 6 different pills, and I'm like, why? He says, well, the doctor says I need it. I'm like, well, yeah, you're a freaking candy dispenser. They're just loading shit into you, you know?
Yeah.
So I'll kind of bring this back for a close a little bit. I'm for no restrictions. Whether I like the idea of bump stocks or not, to me, is irrelevant. At the end of the day, and it kind of piggybacks off of what you guys were saying. You know, really no restrictions. Let's focus on the real problem there. For sure. Now we've got a couple of questions outstanding. One of which has appeared several times. This is from Big C. He's asking about any recommendations for EDC for a larger guy. He says he should be able to get away with potentially a larger handgun, or perhaps not. So what do you guys think? What are some recommendations for him?
It's hard to say. Larger guy could be way too rounded waist. It could be a guy who power lifts 4,000 pounds. A guy who's like 6'10", 300 pounds. You know, I mean, it's hard to say, you know, what would work for him. I mean, anything. I mean, if you're big enough to conceal anything, then get anything. You know, get something that's a full size where you get a full grip, and if it conceals well and it's comfortable to carry, go for it. You know, I am of the firm belief it doesn't matter about body type. You know, if you wear the right clothes and you have the right belt and you have the right holster, you can hide anything. As a matter of fact, I was, excuse me, I was thinking about putting a video out proving that point by just, you know, picking basic things that I wear wintertime, spring, summertime, and just showing you my biggest gun to the smallest gun I own. And just to show that you can hide anything. And half the time, nobody's paying attention. Nobody gives a shit. They're all looking at their phones. They don't care what's around your waist. They're not looking.
And I mean, I'm a big guy, and I carry, You know, I mean, like if I tuck my shirt out, you know, hell, I'll carry a PO9, which is full size. I mean, I've carried full size steel frames all the way down to smaller guns. And, you know, in Texas, we don't have to worry about printing, and I don't really care either anyway. But, you know, and I don't necessarily print with some of the stuff I wear, but hell, I'll carry anything. Even in the summer, I'll carry a PO9 with shorts and a t-shirt. I don't care.
And I take a different tact with this a little bit. I think, you know, it's a good idea to experiment with what's comfortable for you. I mean, obviously you want to spend some time carrying a firearm and carrying it in a variety of different positions to figure out what's most comfortable for you. I will tell you, no matter where you put on a gun, especially the first time, it's going to be uncomfortable. And you're going to know it's there. And you're going to be playing with your waist all the time. You're going to be walking around. You're going to make sure your shirt is covering your gun all the time. And there's going to be a little bit of probably internal paranoia when you first start. At least I know I did. Because I was definitely afraid that somebody would know that I had a gun. And so it takes some time first to get comfortable with the idea that most of the time people aren't looking at your waist. Most people really aren't. They aren't paying attention to you like that. Yeah. And as long as you're not dicking with yourself in one way or another around your waist and messing with your shirt and that sort of thing, you're not going to draw attention to yourself. But then find a holster, a belt, get a good belt. I don't care what it is. I mean, the good belt's going to go along with anything you decide. But, you know, play around with a Kydex holster, I would suggest first, because you can usually put that anywhere, whether it's appendix, 3 o'clock, 4:30, whatever it is. Play around with some different positions and see what is most comfortable for you. I will tell you, most of the time, I carried a Smith & Wesson Shield. Before that, it was the PPS M2. Those are small guns, and I'm not a small guy. I'm 6'3", 240 pounds. But it just is, yeah, right? That's hot. But it was just, it's what's most comfortable for me. Now, I also carry the M&P 2.0 compact from time to time, and I find that works pretty well. But generally speaking, I want something that I can wear all the time and not be worried about fidgeting with anything and it not tugging down, and it's got plenty of whatever I need to do if something were to happen, as far as I'm concerned. So find what is most comfortable for you, and just kind of play around with that. Don't get too far invested in any one system until you find something that works for you.
Yeah, that's great. You know, I mean, and I think we're all fairly big guys. We're not petite in any way. I mean, I'm 6'2", 220. And I don't own any single stacks. I own 0. I own no subcompacts and no single stacks. And I carry everywhere, any way I can. So, you know, first off, go to a gun shop, find a gun you really like. Do the research first. Pick out the gun that you think is going to be the gun you want to shoot with, that you're going to want to take to the range with, but that you can also carry, especially if you're only going to be able to do the one gun thing. And that's fine, you know. And then once you have that gun, like KS said, like Big J said, make sure you get a good gun belt. I think that's rule number 1. Good belt, hold the weight of the gun so it's not moving around. And then get that holster that is going to work for you. I mean, I have a ton of holsters. I go back and forth. I like the single clip Kydex holsters. But, man, I'm telling you, I'm getting into this Black Arch line, man. And again, they didn't pay me. They don't give me anything. But it's just the most comfortable I've ever had on my hip. Even Hidden Hybrid does the same, it's kind of the same concept. And those guns don't move. They do not move on my hip. So
Mateo made a really good point. He said he carried around the house for weeks prior to getting his CC or his carry license. So he was able to kind of get comfortable with the idea of having the firearm and probably get comfortable with what position and all that sort of thing. I think that is an absolutely brilliant idea. That way you're in the comfort of your own home. If you're fidgeting and that sort of thing, people aren't, you know, you're not uncomfortable, they're not uncomfortable, but it gives you an idea of what it's like, not only to walk around the house, but also sit on your couch and you know, try and do your normal everyday things. That's going to give you an idea of what it's like to have a gun. And once again, I will tell you, it's going to take a little while for you to physically and mentally adjust to having an extra object on your hip, whatever size it is. It doesn't matter whether it's a, you know, an LCP inside the waistband or a, it doesn't matter. I mean, there's a new object, a new thing that you're going to be thinking about. So, yeah. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Big J.
And you know, one of the big things is everybody decides to carry and where they prefer to carry. Like I carry at the 430, you know, other people carry appendix, etc. But the main thing is practice drawing your pistol. Now, keep it unloaded, put all the ammo away, put your holster, put your pistol in your holster. If you're going to wear your shirt down, practice like you would normally dress, and then rip that shirt up, pull the holster, make sure you can draw from that area. Make sure it's comfortable for you to draw. Practice where you carry, or whatever you carry.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. I mean, all of these things. I mean, take with it what you will, but all of these different components and these different philosophies play a part in all of this, and then just find what works best for you. You're going to want to pick a gun that works for you, of course, because that might also help you determine some of these other methodologies that everybody has been talking about. So hopefully that helps a little bit. We have another question, and this is I'm way behind in the comments a little bit, but this comment came up. It's a good comment. I think 17, this is applicable to you as well with your new SIG acquisition. But he said, hey, KS, any advice for shooting a pistol with a red dot? Just bought a P320RX. So for me, and I'll just tell you my experience just a little bit, I got into red dots with my first P320RX. It was the full size, the Cabela's edition. It was a phenomenal firearm. In fact, I kind of wish I still had that, but it was one of those sales for the sake of the channel. But it took a little while for me to get used to it. It was the first time I've ever even seen a red dot for myself, especially looking, at the business end and actually doing the thing on the range. But it takes some time. Start slow and get an idea of how the red dot reacts versus the iron sights. So that it's just going to take a little bit of time, because your focal point, you're not concentrating on trying to line up two different things at once. Like iron sights, your front and back, I guess I should do that. But instead you are concentrating on one dot, and in theory that one dot takes the place of the two dots. But it takes some time for your mind to get used to using that red dot rather than the iron sights. But everything else should stay the same. Your fundamentals stay exactly the same. The way you draw the gun, the way you pull up the gun and present the gun, all that sort of thing. And if you've got some experience with that, I don't know if you do or don't, but if you do, if the rest of that is natural, then the red dot should become pretty natural pretty quick. You should get in sync with it pretty quick, because really, again, it's taking the place of those two different objects into one. So just go out to the range, take a bunch of boxes of ammo and just start slow, kind of plink around, and be prepared for it to hop around a lot. And learn how to anticipate that and control that. But you'll dial it in. I mean, it can be a lot of fun and it can be very fast, but start slow.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Perfect.
We do have one question. Crusader Arms, and we talked about this before on some other chats, but what technique do y'all use when you go to a public restroom and there is no place to put your gun? And what I do. Now, of course, we're all males here, but I know that there's some females that actually carry on their person. But, if you're using the stand-up version, I keep my gun exactly where I am. I handle my business, zip it up, wash my hands, and I'm gone. If you have to do the other thing, that's one thing about the holsters, with the single clip. Now, if it's a hybrid, it's a little different. But with the single clip, you pop it off and you actually set it, right? Believe it or not, in your underwear. I know this is weird, but literally down in your underwear, because you're not going to pull up your pants with that thing there. If you lay it on the back of the toilet, you're going to walk right out and leave it there, or on the toilet dispenser or whatever. You're going to leave your gun there. I mean, we've seen it done and heard about it being done before. So I don't ever literally take the gun away from my person. What about y'all?
I actually slide it to the next guy sitting next to me and say, "Can you hold on for me for just a moment or two? I got some business to take care of." And
yeah, sharing is caring.
He sticks it in the hole on the wall of
and usually I've got my cell phone and I'm playing a game or something. I can't be bothered with a gun. I try to be pretty strategic about that sort of thing. And if necessary, I mean, the gun comes first. Obviously, the gun comes first, and you want to make sure that depending on the setting, if you're amongst other people sitting next to you, I would always remove it from my pants, because you don't want that banging on the ground, drawing it, or potentially coming out of the holster, although hopefully it won't. Hopefully you have a good holster and it's going to retain. But for me, I would take everything, not the gun and the holster together, take it out, and worst case scenario, hold it in your lap. and get your business done, whatever. Pretend like it's your cell phone, but it's going to be a little heavier and it can go bang. And get your business done, put yourself back together, and you go about your business. But if you have some sort of way of clipping it around or something like that, that's perfectly fine. If you are clipping it off body, remember to put it back on body when you're done.
You don't hang it on the hook in front of you on the door? You don't hang it up there?
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. I've heard many stories of people doing exactly that sort of thing. They go about their business. They take their gun off body and they put it behind them. They put it on a hook. They put it on the paper dispenser, whatever it is, and then they walk out. And then somebody either gives them back their firearm, or they give them back their firearm and they say you're fired, or they say you're under arrest, or they say get out of our establishment, whatever it is. Try and avoid that sort of situation.
Or you don't get your firearm back because somebody took it.
Right. So be thoughtful about your business when you're going about your business.
Yeah. Insight Freedom says he just craps his pants.
That's another option. Wear a diaper. Wear a diaper.
Yeah. What about you, 17?
Well, all my pants have little buttons under the butthole, so all I do is unbutton and take a shit. Actually, for me, I mean, the whole number one thing is super easy. It's called a zipper, and then you zip it back up. Great. Number two, I mean, in those dire emergencies, when you've had some bad Olive Garden or something like that, you'll run to the John and you'll sit in the stall. I grab my gun on the side and I just de-pants. After, of course, I've laid my bed layer of toilet paper on the seat because I'm not sitting on that, and then I'll just hold my holster and slide it down my leg and let it sit there so it's straight up, and then when I'm done and I do what I need to do, I do the same thing in reverse like a big boy, and then I rebutton my pants and my belt and off I go.
So different methodologies. Just at the end of the day, don't drop it on the floor. Don't leave it in the stall. Just take care of your business and go about.
At the end of the day, don't crap in public.
Or that. Take care of it at home if you can. That's always a plus. Crusader Arms said he had a buddy of his leave his in a KC Quick Trip, and I know those KC Quick Trips very well. He said, lucky for him, he came back an hour later and it was still there.
Wow.
Jeez.
There are many areas of Kansas City where I would say that is not a possibility statistically. So that's pretty impressive that it was still there. He must have actually taken the lid off the stall and plopped it in the water, because otherwise it would be gone.
And it had a kilo attached to it.
Yeah, exactly right. Or he actually bolted it to the wall or something. That's pretty impressive.
There you go.
Oh, good times.
Indeed.
So what's the gun check? What did y'all carry today?
I carried this bad boy. Wait a second. Wait, what? Oh, that's right. You're seeing double. I carried a P10 with me.
You're in there.
I had the P07 and the Harry's holster.
I was carrying the Shadow 2 in an ankle holster today.
There you go. Sweet.
It worked really well. I had a little bit of a limp, but it worked really well.
It was okay. You never had to remove it when you went to number 2, right?
No, I really didn't. I waited until I got home.
There you go.
CZ, we're CZ nerds.
CZ nerds, I'm telling you, that's so true.
Yeah, we love the CZs.
All right, so guys, what all is coming up for you guys here in the next few weeks?
Well, tomorrow night I have been invited to be a guest on Humble Marksman's chat. He's going to do a chat. It's the Humble Opinion, so I will be on there with him. So if you don't know Humble Marksman, he's in the chat, so you can sub him and go to his channel and watch that. I believe it's at 7:30 Central, 8:30, I guess, Eastern. But I'll be on there. And I've got some gun stuff coming up and some gadget stuff. And that's about it. So
cool.
Still doing the hardcore diet thing. It's going well.
Nice.
Update on that, but I'm gonna even give it a little bit longer. It's always, I don't want to do them too fast.
Okay. 17?
I'm going to take a tour of all public restrooms and take dumps in all of them in my local area with a gun. And I'm going to YouTube that. I'm going to video it so you guys can share my experiences with that. Well, let's see. I don't really know. I haven't shot anything. I haven't touched anything because I've been sick. But I got to get the P320 RX out, or whatever it's called. I don't even know what the hell it's called, to be honest with you. I just like it. I put the new grip onto the PPQ because the old one broke. Don't ask. And so I finally was able to reinstall the Apex trigger on this bad boy. So I can't wait to shoot that. That's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to probably just look over the 2 P10s I have, because I did want to make a video on it and just do a comparison of what I found was different between the two. And there's not a heck of a lot. There's one small little difference, but I'm not telling you what it is until I make that video. And if I ever get my P01 Omega, I'll be a happy lad. And then I also have an M&P compact coming in, which, again, if that ever comes in, I'm a happy lad as well. And then of course I also have a Shadow 2 coming, from my friend, great guy. And that would be Sandpaper Pistol Grip, better known as Ben. And he's a great dude. Like I said, guys, go get some grips. I have some grips of his on my handguns and they're awesome. Oh, I also got some grips from Lock Grips for my P01 and, the other P01, which is missing in action right now. So I can't wait to show those off because they're pretty sweet. These are excellent grips they made. But other than that, just, you know, making videos and wasting everybody's time.
Nice. We appreciate that about you.
Yeah.
So you guys probably noticed I took a weekend off. You guys will probably see a slowdown a little bit in my videos on the channel. I've been basically doing 1 or 2 videos a week on the weekends, and that's been a ton of fun. But I'm gonna dial it back just a little bit and concentrate more on certain firearms that I'm interested in, and perhaps that I think you guys are interested in to one degree or another, and put a little bit more time and effort into those rather than trying to churn and burn as many videos as possible like I did last year. That being said, this weekend I do have the X Carry coming up. This is the 3rd and final installment in the X series by themselves. And then I'm going to do some comparisons on those. I've had a blast with the X series. Speaking of all the P320s we've talked about tonight, but then I'm going to talk a little bit about the Glock 19X. I do have one, so just kind of some thoughts I have on that. It may not be a channel gun; it might just be a me gun. But have some thoughts on that based upon all of the feedback we've heard about it. I've got the 365 coming up whenever it comes in, as well as the Ruger PC Carbine, which will be the first time a gun that is beyond what a handgun is has ever been featured on the channel. So I'm pretty excited about that. And also, I'm just excited to shoot that. It looks like a ton of fun for the money, for sure. Some if I could only have ones, and then after that, the sky's the limit. I think I'm going to go back in time and start looking at guns that came out prior to this year, because I think some of those are more interesting than what I've seen this year. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, indeed. Well, guys, you guys want to wrap things up? Anybody want to say their usual thing?
Bye.
Well, I mean, as always, we appreciate the subscribers being on. You know, that's what makes us do this, and we enjoy it. You know, and I enjoy being with these 2 goofballs. We have a great time, and you know, also you know, check out the Humble Marksman's chat, and you know, tune in. Now it's on 17's channel next Wednesday, correct? Okay.
Yeah.
So next Wednesday will be 1776 or bust, and please come over and check us out there. And we really appreciate y'all so much, and smash that like button. We love it. So thank y'all very much.
If you know anybody, get the word out, man. We'd like to see this little, this is going to sound weird, this little threesome to grow. in a mature way, gentlemen. Okay.
It's not going to happen.
Jesus.
It's not going to happen.
So yeah, we'd like to see this get up there. You know, we watch other chats, and you know, especially with these huge channels, and you know, they don't really talk to you guys, and we do, and we don't ask you for a dime. So we appreciate it. We hope you spread the word, and we'll see you next week.
We do like threesomes for sure. Everybody, again, I echo what these guys are saying. Thank you guys so much for joining us. So, as always, you guys are always good about checking out other people's channels that are in the chat, because a lot of people have them. Make sure you're doing that. But otherwise, we just have a blast with you guys. Thank you so much for spending your hard-earned time with us. We appreciate that very much, and look forward to next week and the weeks after that. So everybody have a great night, and we will definitely see you later.
All right. See you
Carry
guys.
on, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Thanks.